I'm delighted to have Mr. Kapoor here with us as our chief guest today at the London School of Economics. It makes for a very interesting mix, you know, Indian cinema as a changing field completely, and being present at the London School of Economics, which is predominantly associated with banking and politics and finance and that side of things. So we feel it's a very unique combination, and hence we decided to have the inauguration ceremony be on filmmaking in India, which is also one of the leading industries in India as such. A bit about India Week. As Dr. Kattumuri nicely pointed out, India Week has been going on since 2006. SPICE, the Society for the Promotion of Indian Culture and Ethos, which is the organizing society, has been formulated in 2001. So we've been around for about a decade now. And it's this year, as Dr. Kattumuri said, that we've decided to take India Week to a much higher level, a much higher scale, so that we can celebrate all facets of India, from economics to politics to Bollywood, on a higher scale and with the wider community, not just restricted to on-campus student events. And once again, I would like to offer our most humble gratitude and thank you to Mr. Kapoor for being with us today. And if I can please have a round of applause for Mr. Kapoor.
I'm happy to say that whatever small way we can create some kind of awareness of the students partaking rather in current topics and current happenings back home. So it gives me great pleasure to be here, to be able to spearhead that kind of all of you. She's the one who actually we met with. Funnily again, I must say, it was on Facebook. So I was invited on that, and she could be talking to some false Rishi Kapoor. I could be talking to some false. Be a part of you guys. I'm happy to be here to whatever we can do in our own small way, and I'll be even happy if you guys pose some questions, and I'll be happy to answer that. Thank you.
If I can add one more thing.
Probably Miss Home, Miss Bang, they want to, yes, we want to hear our stories. When we were kids, we used to hear from our daddies and nannies, the same kind of thing. So when we, some of the other, our roots are attached to our own country. So I guess somewhere there is kind of an empathy towards it.
As an actor, you're a cultural ambassador anyway, but now you're taking it to a whole new level. Is this the first time you've given a talk? What will you talk about? And how much are you involved with this India Week?
Well, thank you first of all for calling us ambassadors. Yes, we do spread smiles and we do create tears, but all in the name of entertainment. And in whatever small way we can contribute to anything, we're always available to do that. I've been invited here. I personally feel to create an awareness what's happening amongst all of us at this, as rightly said, the Society for Promoting Indian Culture and Ethos, the India Week of LSE. So I hope we are successful in doing so.
And how much involved are you with the India Week? What will you be talking about?
How much am I involved is just that I just accepted the invite about 10 days back. So my involvement is just about 10 days. And what I'll be talking is something what the audience will be asking me. So it's that. Thank you.
I'll add to that. The involvement Mr. Kapoor has actually had with India Week is now 2 years in running. Because last year, although India Week was happening on a very small scale, we did screen Patiala House, where we had Bauji.
So and now you have Raufla.
Now we have Raufla. So it's 2 years in running, and we hope this legacy continues.
Shekhabati, Evening Standard newspaper. You just had to go on a Boris bike. What sort of things have you noticed in London? Every time you come back to London, you notice different things, like the bikes are new, they're relatively a year old or something. Are there some things which you find are quite culturally interesting when you come back, and what do you look for?
You're right, you said these bikes were something, which I was talking about to her. And she happened to tell me that, you can probably load it down on your internet or whatever. So I for one felt that I find it too complicated. I said I'm not the age group to ride these bikes around and down anyway. So I'm not going to be doing that anyway.
Would it be a great script though if you took one back and used it in a film?
Why would I want to take a bike from here? I use my own bike.
Anyone else with a question? we're celebrating 100 years of Indian cinema next year, and your family and yourself have a vast contribution. How do you feel when you look back at that, and what do you think is the future for Indian cinema?
How do I feel? Obviously, the question will be delighted. We've been part of the Indian cinema for just about 80 years now. It's the fourth male generation who's serving the Indian film industry, and I'm very proud of the fact that in our own capacity we've been able to keep the legacy going in whatever way. I for one cannot say the future of the film industry. I do not know about that. But yes, thank you very much for all your patronage, your love, your affection, your blessings. Thank you very much. We hope to continue. And I'm sure Ranbir would like his son also to keep the tradition going.
Yes, sir, please.
You inspire a lot of people around the world. When you're growing up, who are your idols? Who do you look up to?
It's very difficult to answer that. You know, I don't try and emulate anybody in my life, because as actor, you know, the kind of profession I'm in, if you asked me whom I probably looked up to as an actor, whom I looked up to as a source of inspiration, I feel as an actor, and that's a very personal opinion of mine, that you tend to sometimes copy that actor. You tend to sometimes, somewhere psychologically it affects your psyche, and you probably could, be imitating that actor. So this has been a very, what did I say? I never wanted to do it, so I really can't say. I didn't have any idols as such or whatever. Yes, I did follow a lot. It's a very logical thing that I would admire the works of my father, because apart from being my father, he was a great filmmaker, great actor, and he was my guru. For whatever I've known, everything is all because of him. So I'm ever grateful to him to have taught me the ropes. And I don't know if I've been any good with that, but all the same, I've been at it for the last 40 years now.
I mean, you mentioned your father. I think it's natural to ask you. Someone asked Michael Douglas, what was it like growing up with Kirk Douglas and your dad? And he said it's very hard, because to break out that mold. Can you share your experiences? Did you find it quite hard to break out?
You see, Kirk Douglas has a generation to answer. I've got to answer 3 generations. He only has a father. I have a grandfather, I have a son. So like I said, no one in the world, there have been 4 generations of actors. I'm very proud to say this, that the Kapoors are the only actors who have been working in films the last 4 generations. Thankfully, and that's because of the people, the kind of love, the admiration, the kind of, it's because of them.
Anyone else for a question?
You mentioned about your music now, and if I just ask you, in terms of your father, when you watch his performance, we've seen him go to events, and his favorite, and you said you don't want to talk too much about the future, but don't you see him being as like, the next future star that we have? How do you?
No, I don't say, I couldn't say that, and I don't even falsely let him know that also, I think he should be working hard. He's disciplined. He has the passion. He has the absolute vision to see what's happening. So I leave it at that. I don't want things to go to his head wrongly.
Anyone else?
What advice would you give to young people hearing you who want to become an actor or director or producer, based on your life experiences?
Advice. Now that's a very broad question again. I'm no one to advise anybody, but yes, whatever field, vocation, or whatever work you do, I feel that you must have passion for it. There has to be a sense of sincerity, dedication, some kind of love for it and passion for it. Then only you achieve whatever goals you set off to. Without passion, I don't think, and my kind of work is a very passionate kind of a profession. You have to be very dedicated towards it. Success and failures are part of this profession, but you must be able to.
Can I please request everyone to stand up for the national anthem? And can I have Veronica and her group on stage? Welcome to India Week 2012. My name is Sanam Arora and I'm the president of the India Society here called SPICE, which is the Society for the Promotion of Indian Culture and Ethos. We are the organizing body of India Week. Just a couple of words from my side to start off. India is the cradle of the human race, the birthplace of human speech, the mother of history, the grandmother of legend, and the great-grandmother of tradition. Our most valuable and most instructive materials in history of man are treasured up in India only. There is no better way to describe a land so rich in its cultural heritage, diverse in its demography, yet united by values and warm people than these wonderful words by Mark Twain. The LSE London School of Economics is considered one of the most culturally diverse universities in the world, counting several nationalities amongst its students and alumni. It has a long tradition of celebrating the many cultures that its students are from, and India Week 2012 is precisely in keeping with this ethos. I'm extremely honoured and delighted to welcome our chief guest tonight, Mr. Rishi Kapoor. Can I please have a round of applause? Our heartfelt gratitude and appreciation, sir, that you've agreed to inaugurate our India Week 2012. Can I please have my colleagues Kamlesh and Swati to felicitate Mr. Kapoor, please? Also join me in welcoming Professor Rachel Boyer, who is the Professor of Indian Cinema and Culture at SOAS. Thank you very much. Amidst us today is also present British Asian actor Mr. Arman Kirmani. Can I have my colleague Bhavya please to felicitate him? Heartfelt gratitude goes out to our sponsors and partners, LSE Annual Fund, LSE Women in Business Society, Southwold Travels, Air India, our partners ZTV, the LSE India Observatory, Colour Pictures, Asiana, Canvas London and Line Square.
I'm going to read my speech, I hope you don't mind. Namaste, Assalamu alaikum, Sat Sri Akal. How nice it is finally to set foot here at the LSE and be invited to speak at the inauguration of India Week 2012. It seems fitting, as India Week 2011 ended with a screening for my debut in Hindi cinema in Nikhil Advani's Patiala House, alongside, of course, Rishi ji. And now I stand here at the opening of India Week 2012, just moments away from listening to my Bauji from Patiala, oh wait, I mean Southall, who I'm sure will charm you all and share his wealth of experience from the world of Hindi cinema. I find it very interesting that the opening of India Week at the London School of Economics is structured around the economics of Hindi cinema. When I made my decision to become an actor and enter the world of the film industry after graduating with a law degree from the University of Cambridge, like any young, polite, good desi bacha at the time came to go and tell the news to my dad. Dad, I want to be an actor. What? You want to be a doctor? Dad, actor banna chahta hu. Kya? Tum doctor banna chahte ho? And so the denial continued for a few hours. My father took some convincing, and even though he swore to disown me after making such a financially unwise decision and told me in no uncertain terms that there was no way that I could be the true son of such a successful banker. Needless to say, he slept in a different room to my mother that night. But I was stubborn. I enrolled at the Anupam Kher Acting Institute in Ealing, and I travelled out to learn my craft with him in Mumbai. I struggled for a few months until my visa expired. Sorry sir, your grandfather was born in Karachi, Pakistan. There is no way we can give you a visa for any longer. This was the beginning of a very important lesson in the life of any actor. Rejection. Sanam told me that the High Commissioner was meant to come today, but I'm disappointed that he's not here. Me and him needed to go out for big dinner. Anyway, these things happen. So, continuing my story, having returned to London in 2009, I continued to audition, but most of the roles that we were getting over here were quite meaningless and small. Even though we've been told at acting school there is no small roles, only small actors, but all that. But you know, we used to get small roles. Would you like to be a cab driver? You're on for about 2 seconds, or maybe you want to work in the background in the news agent. So, and there's a very popular one here as well. Would you like to play the role of a terrorist? I don't know if I should take that, or I should just, you know, I don't know what to do. So I was disheartened, but I hadn't given up, and eventually in August 2009, after only 8 months after completing my law degree from Cambridge, I was mashallah offered the role of Jaskaran Singh Kalon in Nikhil Advani's Patiala House. I was going to say that the rest, as they say, is history, but I really hope that's not true. The rest is actually not history, and I hope, inshallah, that this is the beginning of a bright future for me in this industry. See, this is the difference between me and my father, and perhaps between you and your parents. Whereas we all know that our parents are always right, of course, sometimes in their desire to protect us, their children, and to ensure they have a comfortable life, they don't like to see us take risks. I suspect many of you sitting here today in the audience are in the process of applying for internships, assessment centers, to wanting to secure a job at one of the leading financial centers of the world. And I wish you all the very best of luck with that. But do not underestimate the growth of Indian cinema. Since 2010, the success of films such as Three Idiots, The Bunk, Ready, Bodyguard, Don 2, Ravan, Rajniti, Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara, and most recently, of course, Agnipath, have all broken box office. The 100 crore box office barrier has been destroyed in the last 2 years, and there are expectations that the 200 crore and the 300 crore barrier will also be overcome in the very near future. As the children of Asian parents who have been fortunate enough to study at some of the best universities in the world, I'm sure you will agree with me that there is one thing our parents have always put pressure on us to take seriously: education, education, education. Collectively, our parents have made many sacrifices so that today, on this day, we could all be gathered here at this lovely auditorium, at this prestigious university, around such high-profile guests. We are spoiled. Sometimes I feel our generation takes things for granted. Fancy that, a Cambridge education and then he runs away to Bollywood. But education is a funny thing. It allows us to get well-paid jobs and become rich in the future. But it also gives us that very thing that our parents might not always have had: the access to educational facilities that we do. Choice. Education gives us the choice to do what we want to do. Today, I am very proud to say that I am an actor because this is the choice that I have made. And I was only able to make this choice because of the sacrifices that my parents made. And you know something? I've never actually seen my parents any happier than they were on the day that Patiala House released. My mom and dad had the biggest smile on their face. Amazing what cinema can do. Acting. It's not a career you grow up to it's not a career you grow up to consider seriously, unless, of course, you are a Kapoor by birth. But I'm sure that at least once in all of your lives, at least once when you sat there holding that popcorn, watching the big screen, you thought, you know what, that would be a pretty cool job to have. And you know, dancing around trees and getting paid for it isn't that bad at all. Thank you, Mum and Dad, for allowing me to live my dream. And for if any reason it doesn't work out, I promise I'll consider being a doctor. I have a really good degree here. Thank you very much.
Can I please have Dr. Dwyer please say us a few words about Bollywood and how your thoughts on Bollywood are being a non-Asian academic?
Thank you. Well, I mean, you can imagine what my parents said when I grew up to become the first professor of Bollywood cinema. It wasn't I'm not Indian, you can keep saying it, but I'm not going to believe you. So keep saying it, you know, I'm not going to believe you. Because here I am tonight, and on the stage with me is Raj, Vicky, Akbar, Ralph Lala. Come on! Coined a word, it's called an AC fan. It's an academic fan. And tonight I'm going to try and keep the academic bit in perspective for at least a while before I let the fan bit take over, so please bear with me. I'm also tonight, I just want to mention a lot of people on Facebook were terribly excited when they saw about this event, and so many people said to me they were sorry they couldn't make it to London on a Monday night to be here, but they want to know all about it. And they've even asked me to put it on Twitter, and I said I can't really do that on this stage, but I hope somebody in the audience is doing it. But let's just have a kind of serious moment, because SOAS, you know, that great place up the road from the LSE, is not just some SOAS students here. You know that we're kind of enlightened. We taught, I think, the world's first academic course on Indian cinema, on the commercial cinema, not the one that Rishi Ji calls the boring cinema. And we do it because we take cinema very seriously, and we take this cinema very seriously indeed. So let's just have a few serious moments before we move on to the main event of the evening. And when we talk about Indian cinema being serious, we're not talking about it because it reflects Indian society, but we're talking about it shows us the way that India and life there should be or could be. And the lifestyles and the images that we get from this world of beautiful people where everything is gorgeous and traditional and so on is the aspirations of modern India. And I think all of us know how important that it is that we should take some notice of what modern India, how it sees itself and its role in the world. And I think by understanding this cinema, we understand a great deal about the future of modern India, the global superpower whose role in the world is changing swiftly. And we all know that it was one of the first countries to gain independence from the British, undergoing partition, state-protected socialism, and since 1991, economic liberalisation has changed India entirely, precipitating the most rapid social change in its history, and now gathering unstoppable momentum in the last 5 years. India is now one of the world's largest economies and home to one of its biggest populations. This is also an important time, 2012, because next year is the century of Indian cinema. 100 years since India made its own film, with Dada Saab Phalke's Raja Harishchandra in 1913. And now Bollywood cinema is seen as an emblem of Indians' modernity, but it's hard really to estimate or explain even how massively influential it is and how key it is to determining India's public culture. Film itself is becoming an old media, and film viewing may be becoming historic. We've seen the Kodak factory closing down recently. But cinema is still watched so much, and it remains a great repository of so much of India's other media, and particularly of India's new myth-making. We just heard about India's many cinemas, but the most famous form is what we now call Bollywood. Bollywood's a particular kind of Hindi cinema. It's a popular cinema, it's a commercial cinema, though I'm not saying it's not an art cinema as well, but it's based in Mumbai or Bombay, as I tend to still call it. It's a national cinema, it's a transnational cinema, it's a globalised cinema. It's one of the few rivals today to Hollywood. Indeed, Indian film is often spoken of as the world's largest film industry. And that is still true in the number of films made and the audience of millions, though of course it's not true in terms of finance. But Hindi cinema is pure entertainment, and the importance of entertainment is something we need to keep in mind. It's melodramatic, it's full of fantasies, song and dance, yet I don't think just to call it formulaic, escapist and derivative takes us anywhere near to understanding it, or why it still has such incredible power within India and overseas. It's growing bigger and bigger, and it's taking a more important role internationally. I think that takes us on to serious issues we would engage with about realism, entertainment and fantasy and their role in the cinema, and the way the cinema is a particular repository of showing the way that people understand emotions. And this is something that's relatively new in Western studies, but is growing rapidly. It's important to know not just how people think, but how they feel, and how you feel affects how you think. And cinema is a way of understanding emotional registers and taking them in different ways. Perhaps we could look at it in a more sociological way as well. We could pick up on Charles Taylor's concept of the social imaginary for looking at India, the way that many modernities come together in this form of cinema. Because the social imaginary is not just a set of ideas, but it's what enables, and here I quote Taylor, through making sense of the practices of a society. It's a new conception of the moral order of society, which may have started with a small group, but is now spread. It's best described as the way we and our contemporaries imagine the societies we inhabit and sustain. It resists being theorised, it's unlimited, unstructured, and an inarticulate understanding of our whole society that can't be expressed in doctrines. Its norms and expectations are shared by many as a common understanding that allows us to live our social lives. It shapes our relationships to each other and to power itself through a moral order through which we understand life, history, and so on. Scholars of the Frankfurt School, such as Krakauer, have regarded cinema as dreamlike. They see it as the daydreams of society in which true reality comes to the fore. In short, Hindi cinema is a unique repository of India's public imaginings, shaped by fantasy, nostalgia, and desire. And it is one of the most productive arenas for us to discuss clearer patterns of India's social imaginaries, so we can learn how India sees itself today, how it hopes to see itself in future, and indeed how it views its past. It's also hugely important to us because it's about youth. And I think here people often think Indian cinema is about the illiterate. I don't know, I just had an argument on the Guardian blog last week about this. Please look at that later. But it's about a whole visual language that aims to be understood by a widest possible audience. But it's really now catering largely to India's newly emergent middle classes and showing us how they view themselves. These are about 200 million people here, but also we know that the cinema largely nowadays has turned its back on the poor, the people who haven't benefited from liberalisation and globalisation, who form about 35% of India's population, living on less than $1 a day. Some of them watch the cinema, some of them don't have the opportunities to do so. But it's really the youth. Cinema can't change the world. I'm not expecting it to do that. But I'm saying that we can learn about the world through watching it. And in particular, we can learn about the young people in India. India has about 540 million people aged 18 to 34, and we don't know very much about them and what they like doing, although we do know they are the most active media consumers. So these are some of the elements I think we need to think about when we're considering India's cinema and why it's so important to us. It is entertainment, but nothing is only entertainment. Entertainment is about fantasies. It's about where we want to escape from and where we want to escape to. And I think this is what cinema does so well. So tonight we have a first-hand guide who's going to take us through this. So I'm now going to begin by introducing to you somebody who, as the cliche says, needs no introduction, of course, Mr. Rishi Kapoor. Now, I'm so old that I'm actually a fan of Rishi Ji's grandfather, Prithvi Raj Kapoor, who began in the silent movies, acted in India's first talkie, and really showed a remarkable path through India's popular culture, migrating from Peshawar to Bombay, where he acted in silent films. Then he went to work in Calcutta in the new theatres, back to Bombay, where he was not only hugely influential in cinema, but also, of course, in India's theatre. I'm sure many of you are familiar with the Indian People's Theatre Association, IPTA, the sort of communist cultural wing, which was so influential in trying to create social change and change ideas in India in the 1940s. And indeed, it was in one of these plays, I believe, that Rishi Ji had his first acting opportunity in a play called Pathan, am I right? But then soon came along to the sets of the film Mughal-e-Azam, where Prithvi Raj, of course, played the great Mughal himself. Still at school, Rishi Ji acted. He acted in his father's, I suppose I can call it an autobiographical film, Mera Naam Joker, I'm Called a Clown. And for this, he won the National Film Award for the Best Child Artist in 1971. But by the time of his next film, From Child Artist to Hero in 2 years, he replaces Raj Kapoor himself, the great actor, producer, director of Indian cinema, Rishi Ji's father, who had played himself as the hero in his films to date. And now from this film, Rishi Ji plays the hero and acts, of course, in a film that we all know and love so well, Bobby, for which he wins the Filmfare Best Actor Award. And it's really this film which launches him as a romantic hero, a role which he filled for almost 3 decades, and some of us might say for longer. Some of us say it's still ongoing. I think we do, don't we? He's played a lover, a rebel, a fashion icon, and of course one of Hindi cinema's greatest dancers. His romantic films are just a list of some of the best films ever made: Kabhi Kabhi, Prem Rog, Ye Vaada Raha, Chandani. And Chandani for me was one of the films that really converted me to Hindi cinema. Who doesn't want Rishi Kapoor to fly over their house in a helicopter, showering them with rose petals? So we very much hope that health and safety regulations will be observed more carefully next time and the terrible accident wouldn't take place. But it was when the new generation of romance began in the 1990s, the generation many of you in the audience have probably grown up with. The Shah Rukh Khans, the Amir Khans, the Salman Khans, but how much they all look back to Bobby. Suraj Bajatiya with Salman Khan, Maine Pyar Kiya. If that's not a reworking of the theme of Bobby, I don't know what is. But also Karan Johar, when he makes Kuch Kuch Hota Hai, he calls the teacher Miss Braganza in a tribute to Bobby, of course. The Mujhse Dosti Karoge, will you be my friend? The catchword becomes the theme, and this lover's friendship, which changed so much, a modern way of romancing, is all sourced back to the man on the stage with me. But Rishi Ji did much more than just romance. And he did comedy. I don't know why I'm trying to do comedy in front of him. But Amar Akbar Anthony, I think probably one of my favourite films of all time. Extraordinary performance, and who can forget any of the songs that Rishi Ji did in that film? Parda Re Parda, Naya Pyar Ke Dushman. of Manmohan Desai, one of the zaniest filmmakers of all time. But also, in more recent years, I don't know if many of you have seen his film Chintu Ji. Chintu is Rishi Ji's nickname, of course. And can you imagine any other senior figure in the film industry agreeing to act as people might perceive him, not as himself, you notice? So a film star trying to get into politics and behaving appallingly and sending himself up on screen. I think that was a really brave step to take, and I very much enjoyed that film. But, you know, Hindi cinema is not always good at knowing what to do with its heroes once they're not just romancing, and as we were saying earlier, the heroines get younger and younger, and you know, we get used to seeing films in which a 45-year-old is romancing a 21-year-old, and you know, I'm not that comfortable always with it. And Rishi Ji was looking for other things to do. He directed a film, of course, but he also was one of the first actors to really break through with these major roles as an older figure. And I think here he's played father to so many of the stars in Indian cinema. Hum Tum, Fana, Love Aajkal, and young Seth playing Rishi Ji was a nice step, I thought. Really nice step. Luck by Chance, a really not just doing secondary roles, but taking leading roles, very much within these films. But in 2008, the award that perhaps actors long for and dread, the Filmfare Lifetime Achievement Award, because in a way that's saying your achievements are there. But Rishi Ji, of course, didn't stop there. In fact, he came back with one of my favourites of all of his films, Do Duni Cha, when he totally convinced me that he was a teacher from Delhi, and some nifty scooter driving as well. Very convincing. But then if that wasn't enough, this year, Ralph Lala, I don't think anybody imagined that the lover boy of Indian cinema would ever become a villain. But what a villain. What a villain he became. And before we go on to saying more, I just want to say a little bit more, because you all know, of course, the famous Kapoor Khandan. I mean, every generation produces the biggest stars of that generation. They keep on
So I admire her knowledge, really. It's something fantastic. She knows more about my family than what I know. The insight that she has is commendable, really. I'm really very, very impressed. You know, she happened to tell me that she had embarrassed Amitabh Bachchan. Now I know how it is to be embarrassed. Thank you very much. I'll make it very brief. I'll take this opportunity to thank LSE for having called me to inaugurate the India Week. Thank you very much. Gives me the opportunity to see you lovely people, because you guys get to see us on the screen. We never get to see you guys from the screen. Talking about academics, the only thing academic about me is this photograph in front of me. I don't know who chose the photograph. It just makes me look a little intelligent. You know, one thing is for sure, I'm going to tell my grandparents that I too went to LSE. There is no denying this. You can't deny it. I have been doing this. I want to share a secret with you. Way back in 1968, I was, in those days, the 12th standard A-levels were called, I was appearing for Senior Cambridge. And I was a okay student. I had taken commerce as my subject, and I was appearing for my finals. This was just about a year before Mera Naam Joker released. And in my papers of English, there were, excuse me, we had English paper 1 and English paper 2. And in English paper 2, we had to write a précis. And précis was of 500 words. And when I was in class, I went on to write 16 foolscap sheets. of a proceed. What happened is that I got a 0 in the English language, and I failed and I flunked. So all my aspirations, my ambitions, whatever to do, were all squashed, and I came back to films. I want to say this, that you guys are very lucky. I'm sure all of you aspire to become something. My blessings are with you. I can't guide you, but I can only say that I wish you all the best. Whatever kind of endeavors you're looking for, that you succeed in life and make something big and something good of you guys. I don't want to take much of your time making boring speeches or telling anything. I think we'll get into a little bit of a sparring session, Rishi and Rishi. And we'll entertain you a little more. That's going to be possible. Is that all right with you guys? Thank you folks.
We're going to end up like the two gentlemen from Lucknow in Bobby, aren't we? Train with all our belly out. But beginning, have I got somebody who's going to do a few media clips for me? So we're lined up. I think you were going to on
We were young. He was shooting for Mughal Azam, and he said to us that come and visit the sets. Now the shooting which I was to go for was actually the scene where Akbar is meeting with Salim just before the war, and they're trying to make peace, and nothing happens. Now if you recollect, in that scene there were a lot of arms and swords and spears and everything online. So I had heard of the fact that there were a lot of swords in the shooting. So I was very keen to go and see the shooting, filming. But my keenness was not because to see Prithviraj Kapoor or Mr. Dilip Kumar. I was only keen so I could flick one of those spears or swords and bring it. They were made of plaster of Paris or something that made these fake things. So I wanted to have one of those. So when I went on the sets, I was not interested in seeing any actors, I was not interested in seeing any acting, I was not interested in seeing anything. I just wanted that. And the great director, late K. Asif Saab, he knew, somewhere he knew that this child's interest is not in the film shoot, his interest is something else. So he picked up one of those, swords, and he came and gave it to me, and he said, "Tum loge?" And I, sheepishly said, no, I can't be, can't accept it. I was even acting those days, So he very graciously gave it to me, and I accepted it, and the moment I took it, and it broke. Why? Because it was plaster of Paris, and it was very heavy one side. So these are my faint memories of my grandfather calling me to the... Quickly, I'll tell you another one. I got the National Award for the Best Child Actor in Mera Naam Joker. Now, when I won the award, I took it to my father, and my father said, "Go and give it to your grandfather." So rightly so, I went to my grandfather's. Now, what he will tell me didn't mean anything to me at that time, but I did realize what his depth was, what he actually meant by that. So when I went to my grandfather, and I kind of gave it to him in respect of the fact that I had won an award. And my grandfather had tears in his eyes, and he looked at me and he said in Hindi, "Ke Raj ne mera karza utar diya." Meant that, whatever I had taught him, he's passed it on to his son. So it was something that didn't mean much to me. I didn't realize, but then these words stayed with me, and it will be in my autobiography or biography, so to speak, that he did say that to me. So it means a lot to me. Sorry, I hope I wasn't too long on my grandfather.
Well, as long as you like.
Again, Rishi ji. Yeah, that's it.
Rishi, young man.
That sounds good.
Imagine that the first film you appear in is Shrichar Savis. You're 2 years old and you appear in one of the most beautiful love songs in the history of Hindi cinema. I would love to have shown you it all. I'm just going to show you a very quick clip. I hope the sound picks up as well. For this, if you just go next forward, it'll come on. Yeah. I'm not going to get much sound. If you just put a microphone over the see the picture of it too?
That's my elder brother and my elder sister. I'm the youngest one. Just a moment.
Try the next one along.
That's my first screen appearance. And I was saying, Rachel, that for this, I was remunerated. I was 2 years of age and I was remunerated. I was bribed by Nargis ji. She gave me a bar of chocolate to do the shot. It was raining in the shot and it was hurting my eyes, and I kept crying and I wouldn't do the shot. Don't miss the walk. Thank you.
So what a way to start. And one question I would like to ask is, when you hear Mukesh singing, do you think of your father?
You see, I've grown up in a household where Mukesh uncle was always there, part of us. You know, so we did treat him like Mukesh uncle, and then he was the voice of Raj Kapoor on screen. And yes, we believed. Cinema is something like make believe, and I knew that Raj Kapoor cannot sing. I know Raj Kapoor, Mukesh cannot be his voice. But the very fact is that can I speak a little bit of Hindi? Can I do it? So what happens is that हम आप लोगों का बेवकूफ बनाते हैं. What happens is that the songs are sung by someone else and we just lip sync. So we lip sync somebody else's voice. So हम लोग आपका बेवकूफ बनाते हैं. So in a way, I did know that this is Mukesh uncle singing. It's not my dad singing. Come on, give me a break. So I knew that. So that's it. The whole world thought of him as his voice, his soulmate. They thought of him as body and soul, like he always said. But perhaps the perception cannot be broken amongst people who really believe that. But for me as a son, I just spoke my heart out.
But most of us, when we're teenagers, much as we love our parents and we don't always appreciate them at the time, but we often find them quite embarrassing. What was it like having such a famous father? Or was it, it must have been normal to you, but did you like his films? Did you like other people's films more? What did you enjoy as a teenager?
Getting access to a restaurant easily. No, I had a very normal childhood. We were kept away from studios, except for just the holiday on a Sunday or something. Probably we're allowed to go and see a shoot or something. But I had a very normal childhood, much away from the glaring bulbs and whatever. But you cannot deny the fact that we were embarrassed. That people used to look at us. Like we were not from this planet, we were somewhere else. It's not my fault if my father's popular. I knew my father was popular, that is for sure. People knew my father. But why did they gawk at me? I did not know. Well then, eventually, it proved that, we knew that Raj Kapoor is an important man, he's an actor, and then people like him. Then he's a filmmaker, then he was a popular man even in the the USSR, then later on China. He was a popular actor. So then you learn, I got to know that I'm amongst some great luminaries in the family. My grandfather, my dad, my uncles, maternal and paternal, the whole lot of them were all actors. We were always in the whole ambiance, the environment was very famous. I was, when I grew up, the four walls of the institute were always the RK Films studios. So it was but natural, that I'm jumping the question. I'm going somewhere else now. I'm sorry. No, people always ask me, how did you always want to be an actor? I said, I've been brought up in four walls of the RK Film Studios. I've watched films. I have access to any kind of knowledge whatsoever from everybody in the family. It was but natural that I would want to work in films. But it's not as easy as what my friend Arman Kermani said, that if you have a Kapoor name, you can easily get it. It takes a lot more than just having a surname, you know. I tell you, I'll share that with you.
Just go one forward. I just want to show you a still.
I'm embarrassed.
Did you think when this film came out, I mean, this was really cool. Did your dad surprise you with this look of this film? I know Banu Attire worked on it. But...
To share a secret and being honest, Bobby was out of a default. It was a default movie. It was not like today's times when a star father launches his son or a star father launches a daughter or whatever. I was in this film by default. We had made a film called Main Shayar Toh Nahin, and that tanked badly at the box office, and we were in a lot of areas. We were, our studio was mortgaged. We had a lot of problems. So we had to have a successful film. We had to make a commercially viable project. So Raj Kapoor chose not to take a star cast film, make a non-star cast film. I don't know what it was, his ego, or what was it? It was a hurt man that he wanted to prove something to the world. And he chose to actually make a real love story, a teenage love story, young love story. So he chose, it was a script that he was actually making. He liked the idea of the film called Bobby. He liked the story idea. And if you do note that Bobby is not the hero, he's the heroine of the film. The star of the film, the title role is of the heroine. So I was taken in the film by default because I was liked in Main Shayar Toh Nahin Part 1. So my dad said to me that I had to lose weight to star opposite this girl, which I readily agreed. I agreed for the girl, not for the role. Well, so the rest is such that, you know, I got a chance to work in the film. The film proved a great success, and at the age of 21, at the tender age of 21, way back then, I was a star. And that was something very difficult for any, you know, youngster, a 21-year-old boy to, you know, handle. It was, you know, fame and adulation at that point of time was very difficult as compared to a, you know, kid he's a much more, you know, he's so much of exposure is there for, you know, person today. But for me, it was very difficult. So this is the secret I want to share with you.
And just to go on to, because everybody who knows me knows there's no way we could have a talk without mentioning Yash Chopra. So if you just flip forward slightly, we can see in Cubby Cubby, the next one, please, just a still I've put. One of the great couples of Indian film history.
But she's 7,000 miles away from here. She doesn't know what I'm doing, what I'm supposed to say right now. You know, I started dating my to-be wife in this film. That was Cubby Cubby. That's why, you know, we met and then after, of course, when we were working in 2 shifts. We made about 11 films together. The 12th one was Do Duni Cha. So, well, I'm embarrassed to tell you what my love life, but that's it.
We thought we would just have to touch upon that because this romance and the style was so much, I think, part of the 70s, weren't they? I mean, people often think of the 70s as the angry young man and this decade, but you and your uncle, Shashi, were very much in films with Amitabh and often adding a sort of lightness, I think, creating not as a kind of secondary role, but actually as balancing what he did in the films. And, you know, I know that on my Twitter we're big fans of what we call Shashitar, which are the Shashi Kapoor Amitabh films, because together I think this creates a great balance. And you enjoyed working with Amitabh in the 70s, very
Absolutely. There's a hurricane called the Amitabh Bachchan hurricane. Way back in 70s, it was impossible to, you know, compete with anybody of that stature. And in those days, the angry man image was very much prevalent, and you have it, you know, all the people I know, they were all very angry. I don't know what kept them uptight. They were all very angry. I think Shashi Kapoor and myself, only two guys were singing, serenading the Irans. We were wearing, at least I got to wear a lot of jerseys and I got to sing a lot of good songs and run around trees and earlier in Kashmir and then later on in Switzerland. But I enjoyed myself. I had a great time. I had my heroines all through. When I said Neetu 7,000 miles away from here.
The world is shrinking, but if we move on swiftly to the next one, I think really, for me, this is one of the great songs of Hindi film history, because for some reason, as we've seen again in Agnipat, if you want a Qawwali sung, who do you get to do it? You get Rishi Kapoor. Let's have a quick look at one of the best songs in Indian film history.
This generation also knows the song.
My students here have to study it in class.
Say again? Thank you. The very fact that you know of it is very...
But it must have been huge fun working with Manmohan.
Well, what do I say about the guy? Absolutely. I remember one day telling him the film was a huge success and I was shooting for his next film, that was Naseeb. And have you guys, I'm sure you guys must have seen Amar Akbar and things. So I said to him, I was called Manji. And I said, Manji, tell me one thing. In the climax, where we are singing that song in the den of the baddies, and we are singing Honi ko anhoni kar de, honi ko anhoni, ek jagah jab jama ho tino, Amar Akbar Anthony. I said, throughout the film, the baddies are looking for Amar Akbar Anthony, and in the song they're singing. I said, oh my God, I didn't realize that. I mean, only he could actually have, he challenged medical science. He to Neera Baroy. As if, she was the mother petrol tank. And she, how is it possible? This is the magic of cinema. You forgive. Our audiences are very forgiving till the time you entertain. I mean, it's beyond the ridiculous. I can tell you so many things that I've done. And I used to argue with him, and he used to just give me one of those, very powerful Hindi galis, and just say, just do your job. Nothing else. Leave everything else to me. He was that kind of a guy. In the climax, I must tell you this, sorry. There's a sequence where Parveen Babi faints. Okay? And Jeevan says, what's happened? And Bachchan Saab says, and suddenly Neetu comes and she doesn't feel the pulse of the girl. She takes the hand, she hears the pulse. And she says she's going to be a mother. She says that she's going to be a mother. Where does that happen? Where does that happen? And sure, it doesn't happen, man. I can go on and on about the films that he's made, what he's done. My mother in the film bangs her head, she gets her eyesight back. Yes, I mean, okay. Audiences are so forgiving. This is what we've done.
That's because we were too busy looking at somebody wearing a white sherwani with a red rose in it. What a chance to make them. I mean, really, some of these great directors, and people talk now about the Hindi film industry and corporatizing it and doing this, and you wonder, could they have made those kinds of films in a corporate setting? I mean, can you imagine Manmohan Desai taking that script to a producer and they would just say, what are you on? We're not going to make that film. And then you make one of the most popular and enduring films.
And the film works even today. Amarat Banantiri works even today, as what is very evident by you, this generation knowing of it. Pregnant? It works today!
What about direction? How did you enjoy directing?
Well, being a director is a full-time job. For me, it is for anybody, not for me. You see, my passion is acting. I always wanted to act. I always wanted to be an actor. It so happened that I'll just rewind a little bit. I was working. I worked non-stop as a leading actor from 1973 until 98. That was 25 years non-stop, without even a break of any time. I made close to 120 odd films as a leading actor, or maybe a little less. I can't really remember. And then came a time when I was just singing songs, doing girls. I was not doing any great parts. I was only making money, and I was getting fat. So my wife, at that point, my wife said to me that, you're looking bored and you're not really enjoying yourself. I think you should give yourself a break. And I thought so too that before the audiences get fed up with me, I should very graciously retire from films. And then I called all the producers and I gave them back the money, which they protested, but I said, no, I don't want to be, getting on the nerves of, audiences, and I don't want to close many offices of film production offices. I said, I'm just going to give it up. I want to take a break. Because I was inspired by Mr. Shami Kapoor. Shami Kapoor, of course, retired at the age of 35. I mean, there was no age to retire. I had retired at a much later age. So I gave it a break. And
without this song and the
Bollywood. नहीं है इलाज दुनिया में और कोई
You know, I could use that treadmill now.
You know, this generation probably doesn't even know what a record player is. This one. Totally convincing that they were doing each other. What was it like working on a sort of relatively small, low-budget?
Yes, this is the first low-budget film I worked in. Habib Faisal was the director, and he came to me with the script. And when he narrated to me the script, I was, very impressed. And I said, "Which part do you want me to play?" He said, "The part of the professor." I said, "But that's the main role." He said, "I want you to play the main role." I said, "Listen, man." I said, "You should be taking some young actor. You should make a film. It's your debut film. You should make." He said, "No. My star of my film is my script, and I need a 50-plus actor to play this role. I can't have Rishi Kapoor playing your 50-plus." So I said, "That's very complimenting." I said, "Thank you very much. Very good. Takes my ego." So I said, "Bloody good. Yeah, I like the script very much." So the perception was that Rishi Kapoor only looked very rich. I don't know why, for reasons beyond me. That he could never play the common man. He could never play the aam admi, so to speak, aam admi. So I said, how do I break that image? That I can also play a common man, a man who is of the streets, who is probably a hand-to-mouth guy working, middle class person of Delhi. How would I do it? So I did a lot of tests. I knew somewhere in back of my mind I'd seen this character, Santosh Dugal. He was etched in my mind. I knew that this person, I met him, I've seen him in the streets of Delhi. I know he walks around. I knew he's the typical guy who wears those skets with those flaring trousers. He wears those very tight sweaters. And he must insist on a helmet which is wrong. And he must always be scratching at the wrong time, at the wrong places. So I knew this character. Nonetheless, to cut the story short, I asked Habib, now everything is falling into place, what about who's going to play this role? So he said, ideally I would want Neetu ma'am to play, but I said she won't do it. Well, then I tried, gave it a try, and went to her and said, "Listen, this is what it is." And she said, "You must be joking. I can't, I haven't worked in films for the last 30 years, and I can't." I said, "There's nothing called can't." I said, I convinced her. Because acting is such that if you know acting and you know how to ride a bike, it's like the same thing. Once you get onto the bike, you know exactly. So Neetu, just to please me, said, "Okay, I'll give it a 15-minute round. I'll just quickly and I'll decide and I'll say I won't do it." She heard it. She heard the whole subject for 2 hours, and she readily agreed to do the film. I was the happiest man. Then we made the film, and then I'm sorry you were impressed by it, and yes, we had a great time doing this movie, and I'm very proud of this movie. Our film got the National Award for the Best Hindi Film of the Year. And it won a lot of awards, got a lot of acclaim, and I'm very proud of this picture. And I'm very proud of the fact that I could play a common man, much against the image which I had established earlier. I mean, imagine a guy who's singing "Meri Umar Ke Naujawano" playing Santosh Dugal. And the same guy actually goes and plays Rauf Lala in Inauguration. So that's what is that's great. That's what is great about acting.
Because he's getting a lot of cheers here tonight in the audience. Tell us a bit about working on Agnipath. That the original was one of the films I remember with Chandani coming out about 89, 90. I thought of you more Chandani than Agnipath.
Well, Agnipath has a very good story. When I was narrated this subject, I said no to it. I said, "No, I'm not going to do the film." So both the Karan Johar and Karan Malhotra, debut director again, were very foxed. Why would you not want to do it? I said, "No, I said, I can look bad, but I can't look evil. You know, I just can't carry out this role. My image doesn't allow me, the kind of films that I've done. I'll just screw up your film. I say, you need to take, you know, someone who's a versatile actor, probably a very strong actor, who's be able to carry this, you know, very strong part with conviction. I said, I don't have the guts, and I don't have the courage to do this, and I don't have the confidence to do it. Well, they pestered and they were persistent about me doing a role for about a good couple of weeks, and then I, for one, felt that it wouldn't be a bad idea. It was a good part, no denying on that. I would give them a test, or a look test, you know, like an audition, which I'd never auditioned in my 40 years of my career with anybody. And I was willing to give a look test to build, to muster enough courage and confidence that I could take up the role. It was a look test just for myself. So we did a look test, and I was convinced, in so to speak, in a matter that I think I might be able to pull it off, you know. So I said to them, yes. But having said that, I'd like to give total credit of that role, of my portrayal, to the two Karams. It was their conception, it was their confidence to think of me playing this role. You know, I mean, how did they think of me to play this role? No, I mean, it's a laughing matter now, but and you sometimes seriously think about it. I mean, wonder how did they think, from which angle do I look like a bloody pimp? Where do I look like a butcher? Where do I look like any of those things that I wanted? So it was just, I personally feel, my son feels that. I haven't seen the film. Honest to God, I haven't seen Agni Patt till today. I will see it. I've been traveling a lot. No, I've been traveling a lot. There were weddings in Goa, in Delhi, I was in Hong Kong, nonetheless. But my son saw the film, and I asked him, and he said a very correct thing, which I feel is true of the film. Now, I don't know whether I should tell you what he said, the good things about me, but what he said about he says, you are shocking people that you've done the role. People are not expecting you to be like this. So that's why people go into a state of shock. You know, the film's major, the protagonist and antagonist are two major stars of the film, Hrithik Roshan and Sanjay Dutt. They're two leading actors who are playing David and Goliath. I mean, I'm a character actor in the film. I'm not a major player in the film. It's an important character actor who actually contributes to the, what should I say, the villainy of the film or whatever. I'm happy the film has been accepted. I can probably make it out from you guys. I'm happy that you liked it, and hope to please you more with such roles.
You know, I think this is one of the things, perhaps it's only by growing older that you've been able to move away just from being a star to being a real actor now, where you can take roles that are against character. And I remember, before I open this to the audience, this is great modesty. When I first interviewed 15 years ago Shah Rukh Khan, I said, who do you think the best actor in Hindi cinema is? Rishi Kapoor, he said.
I'll thank you, he's in town. I must thank him.
So somebody knew before the person himself. Now, I've embarrassed Rishi enough. Now it's your turn. I'd like to take some questions from the floor. What would be really helpful is if you just say your name, say which college you're at, and then ask your question. Are there microphones?
Yes. Yeah, I think we could hear.
I just want to ask you to say hi to your son.
My tragedies, wherever I go, people nowadays only talk about my son. They don't talk
As you can see, we all love him. Just on a more serious note, as a family, the audiences have given you so much over the decades. What have you, are there any initiatives that the family has taken, maybe like an acting school, or maybe in any case, in any way facilitating young actors who want to enter the industry? How are you giving back to the audiences? Thank you.
That's an interesting question. It probably help you guys just this evening we have an aspiring student of the LSE, what's his name?
Paras.
Paras. Paras, are you around? Paras, are you there? I don't want to embarrass you, but he's doing his second year law and he wants to be an actor, which is very good. And don't worry, don't be so scared. I'm happy to say that acting is not such a bad job, you know, but the only thing I said to him and to our friend Mr. Kirmani is that don't neglect your studies. You must have a good academic background. I did have one. And I wasn't supposed to be in a film, but I became, by default, like I said, I became an actor. Everybody doesn't really become that way. You must have something to fall back on. You know, it's not very easy that you make it into films. It's not that, you know, you've decided to be an actor, you become an actor. I mean, you learn to be a lawyer, you become a lawyer, but however your capabilities are. But I encourage you that you must take up this vocation. It's very, I mean, we've been doing this the last 80 years. Kapoors have been entertaining and acting since 80 years. So, obviously it's not a bad job. And when you say about schools of acting, yes, Ranbir went to Lee Strasberg for a while as an actor, to train as an actor, but that was absolutely against my school of acting. I mean, I have great respects for all crafts and skills of acting. I totally have great respect for them, but I don't belong to that kind of belief of acting. So he wanted to go there. I said, you're most welcome. But before that, he did a course with the School of Visual Arts in New York. He was there for 4 years. We didn't have that kind of luxury in our time. You know, when we were young. Of course, I could have gone to the Pune Film Institute, but like I said to you earlier, I was a failure in the 11th standard, so I wasn't a matriculate, so I was not allowed to join any government institution because I wasn't a matriculate. And what I personally feel that the biggest institute at that point of time was the Institute of RK Films and Studios. I was surrounded by all actors. I was influenced and taught by all my uncles and my father and my grandfather. So what better masters could I have asked for? What better, you know, gurus could I have asked to having trained actors in their school? So it was like Gurukul. It was like a Gurukul for me. So that's what it is.
Sir, I'd like to compliment you for the role of Raf Laila first. Like, I think you outperformed the other two actors.
No, that's very unfair to say. See, film is always made on totality. It's never, you know, we're not racing. It's not. It's what you have seen is an incomplete totality. So it's all that.
Yeah, and I want to ask you, like, which is your own favorite film of the movies you have made, and which has been the most challenging one? Two questions.
I feel every film is a challenging one. Sometimes films work, sometimes films don't work. They're all very near and close to me. I work with equal amount of passion and equal amount of love for each of them. Some didn't work, some turned out bad, some turned out good. So you can't really, you know, make it, you know, kind of bad.
I'll take one in the middle.
Hello, my name is Marta Schmidt, and me and my two colleagues here, we're from SOAS Bollywood Society, and we're also doing a radio show on Bollywood music. And I would like to ask you specifically that the show is now going to treat on the 70s and 80s, and it's perfect that you're actually in London to ask you the question, how do you think the music has impacted, at that time, has impacted the development of your career? And how maybe generally also the music and a successful soundtrack has also been bringing actors as stars in Bollywood industry?
Interesting question, might take a little time. I owe my career a lot to my music in my films. They contributed to my career, you know, music director. Sound has changed. Not only when Rachel said that you probably haven't seen the record player, even the sound has changed. Today it's more about rhythm. It's more about cacophony. It's more about, there is no meaning to lyrics right now. It's, I have sung a song in Agnipat, if you've seen the film, and I couldn't remember one lyric. I mean, I have sung more than 300 and 350 songs in my career. I couldn't, because I just can't picture that. I can't picture any lyrics. It doesn't make sense to me. So I find it very difficult to sing songs in today's times. Today's songs become items. They get big stars to do item numbers. Wherever there was a time when we had good music to, serenade. We had great music in our times. But I guess the scenario has changed. We hope to get that era back. I felt once that Sanjay Bhansali had nearly cracked it with Savaria, but the film flopped. So the film's music did not take off. If the film had succeeded, like 1942 succeeded, we thought that R.D. Burman passed away. And that was the end of even Lakshmikant Parallel. So the era changed. So we need a path breaker. We need somebody to set a new trend, to get back melody. Well, melody is always king. It's got to be. We are only depending on electronics. Today's there are no acoustic music. They're only all electronics. I personally feel today they're not musicians. They're all electricians. They come in there, just plug into their wires, go, and everything is compiled into their what do you call them, synthesizers and everything. And there you are. There's nothing like a musician.
Can we please ask?
These two, I think, I'll try and move around the room. I'm sorry, it will take a little while.
Yeah, is there a mic up there?
Let me take these two here. If they were singing louder.
It's not a question, it's actually a request.
From all of us, sir. Could you just...
Give them, please give them.
Could you sing Main Shayar Toh Nahin
For us,
please?
बहुत छोटी रिक्वेस्ट की Like I said earlier, हम आपका बेवकूफ बनाते हैं. So I'm not a singer, I'm an actor.
You sang in Hum Tum.
I did sing. It was Sharon Singh again who sang. I lip synced him. Well, I'm an actor, so छोटा अगला क्वेश्चन बोला हो गया, मुझे लड़की भी बेचो. इसका ये मतलब थोड़ी है. मैं शायर तो नहीं, मैं शायर तो नहीं, मगर हंसी जब से देखा मैंने तुझको, मुझको शायरी आ गई.
Hi, Suleiman from the LSE. There's no doubt that the Kapoor family has the best ear for music in Bollywood. And Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan Sahab performed for the first time Sanson Ki Mala Pe at your wedding in 1980s. And I think ever since you had a very good relationship with him. So could you please tell us about your relationship with Nusrat Sahab and how things developed? Because I think there's an interesting story at an opening music he did for in 1997 as well, where you requested him to sing Sanson Ki Mala Pe because Rajesh Roshan had copied it for one of his films. I think there's an anecdote in relation to that.
I don't want to get into that avenue. I don't know about. But yes, my dad did call Nusrat Ali his dad Fateh Ali, those days when he was alive, and that was the first time they ever sang in India. And my father had called them for the Sangeet night of my wedding. When I got married, that was in 1980. They sang on my Sangeet, and that was the first time. And he had the whole film industry. There were about 800, 900 people, and all of them, eminent people were there because Mr. Raj Kapoor had hosted it. And he had mesmerized everybody till 6 in the morning. He sang till 6 in the morning, and it was only because it was daybreak that we had to call it off. Otherwise, he would have sung even further on. So we remember him, we cherish his memory. God bless him. He was great. And there will be never anyone to replace Nusrat Sahab.
Assalamu alaikum. Idhar.
उठ तो जाओ ना.
First of all, congratulations, आपने इतनी अच्छी एक्टिंग की अग्निपथ में. सबसे पहले तो मैं ये पूछना चाहूँगा कि have you ever been to Peshawar? I don't know if you have.
Yes, I have. Way back in 1990.
Okay. And
we shot also a film in Pakistan. I did 1 day's work, 2 days work in the film Hina. We shot in Pakistan.
And the other part of the question is कि यहाँ पे काफी लोग ये जानना चाहते हैं जब आप मसलते हैं तो कितना इतर निकलता है?
प्रॉब्लम क्या है कि मैंने पिक्चर देखी नहीं है. वो जब पिक्चर देखूंगा फिर मसलेंगे तो बताऊंगा फिर क्या होता है.
Okay, that was the last question. I'm sorry, we don't have time for any more questions. I'd like to once again thank this living legend right in front of us for being there tonight. Thank you, Professor Boyer. Thank you very much, Mr. Kapoor. Thank you to all our sponsors, all our partners. And thank you, a huge thank you to my committee, my wonderful committee. Spice, here it is.
Excuse me. And last but not the least, please, I'd like to compliment the beautiful Sanam Arora, who's actually the magician of tonight. Please, ladies and gentlemen, give her an ovation.
Ladies and gentlemen, have your attention please. With your permission, sir, on behalf of the entire SPICE committee, I would like to take this opportunity to thank Sanam Arora for all the hard work and effort she's put in to making India Week 2012 greater than ever. Thanks Sanam.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure working with you. May I request Sarah to present her with flowers. May I also request members of the audience to sit down as we escort the guests out of the auditorium.